There we go. Great stuff. See, you still look young. There was no need for you to hide from us.
No, I'm relatively young. Eh?
Definitely. I'm still struggling a bit to allow Thando Mahlangu into our Zoom session. We're still trying to connect on the sites here. I hope he forgives me for this technical glitch. I hope it won't be permanent. Let's just see here as the conversation unfolds that he can connect through with us. Again, I did say this is talk radio. You never plan for it. Things are unplanned, definitely, and anything is possible. Some days it happens as per your plan, and the other, it just teaches you what young people call flames. I'm not sure if I'm blocked there or you can see me. I'm also a bit youngish and I think I'm cute. So I have to.
You look better than me. Eh? You are a younger version of me.
Most definitely. I think Thando Mahlangu is a bit frustrated wherever he is. I'm trying to contact him on the site too and see if we can get through. For those who may not know, Gakwi Mashego is a language practitioner. He advocates for the inclusion, recognition, and the normalization of a language called Mapulana. We did not even know that there was a language called Mapulana until I did my research out of curiosity. Moreover, he's an art critic. He criticizes everything artistic, even though I have not seen him criticize what's currently taking place at the NAC and the minister in charge. We're gonna talk a bit about that. And he also does a lot around the advocating of practicing our heritage freely and as and if our conscience deems fit. Thank you so much, Mr. Gakwi Mashego, for joining us on Capital Radio. How do you do today?
No, I'm fine. Thank you for the invitation.
It's a pleasure, my brother. I'm a bit uneasy with Thando not being able to connect with us here. Let me just see. He sent me a Skype invite instead. I don't even have Skype here because I normally use Zoom. Let me just see if I can contact him on the side while we still continue with our conversation. Mr. Mashego, for those who may not know you, please kindly do the intro. I know I did an injustice when trying to paint a picture of who you are.
Well, I think that was a brilliant introduction. If I'm going to introduce myself, I'm likely going to repeat the same thing. But additional to that, I also do a lot of literary adjudication on different competitions, which is names I'm not going to mention, but I also write. And I also do a lot of research on language and development of African communities. And yeah, and I'm also an artist. I also do poetry. So I'm more in the arts and in the research space. So I'm doing quite a lot of those that you mentioned and other things.
Great stuff. It's always a pleasure to talk with artists because, as you may know, the current artistic space in SA, particularly the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, is showing us creatives or practitioners flames. There's a lot of maladministration taking place there. There's a lot of mismanagement, corruption, ineptitude, and a lack of transparency in terms of how funds are dispersed and how accountability is taken care of. So as an arts practitioner, I'm certain you have an opinion regarding the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture in SA. Just give us your view in terms of what's currently taking place and how do you see it?
Well, I think what's currently taking place is a process of a birth that for some time, for a long time, the Department of Arts, Sports and Culture, especially the art side, has been one of those areas where incompetent ministers get dumped there. If you're incompetent, you get dumped to arts and culture because it seems as a country, we are not taking culture as a very serious currency that you can use to transact in the world. So right now, it has been filled with politicians who have lost favor with whoever deployed them in other departments. And what is going through now is a rebirth. I think after the debacle that's happening now, we're likely to see a more refined, more artistic driven, more artist-orientated department, because now the shenanigans are showing, and most of the shenanigans are a result of incompetence on people who have never written a book, but being responsible for disbursing funds for books. People who have never made films, being responsible for disbursing funds for film. So I think after this debacle, we are likely to see more people who were artists or who are artists or who have got a passion for art being in charge of the department, instead of it being one of those where people do cater, the way deploy cadres with a mandate to do 1, 2, 3, instead of advancing the art and making sure that we move to a point where our arts become an export commodity instead of them just being something we consume as a country.
Definitely. I'm not sure if you heard, the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Natim Tetwa, went to the Gauteng North Court and he lodged a claim where he's asking the court to assist him to dislodge artists who are currently staging is sitting at the offices of the National Arts Council. And Ismail Mohammed went as far as calling it the cultural Marikana. Do you accept that notion as well?
I do. First of all, we need to ask ourselves who owns the building, because every state building, what they call a public building, belongs to the public. And if you have a National Arts Council office in Newtown, it belongs to artists whose funds are disbursed through the National Arts Council. So you can't really say a member of the public is trespassing when they're occupying a building that belongs to them, because to enter the office of NAC, you don't need a permit. So those artists have got every right to be in that building. And for a minister to say they must be evicted, it's just a way of entitlement whereby ministers believe entities of government are owned by them instead of being owned by the people. So I think somebody must just really explain to the minister to say the NAC building is owned by artists, the NVF building is owned by artists, every government building is owned by people to whom it has been created. For the same way hospitals are owned by patients. You cannot evict a patient from a hospital. So the artists are going through a certain cultural artistic illness and the other NAC to get treatment. You can't evict them from the building. I think that's really some kind of Marikana unfolding right there.
Definitely. And one perhaps needs to also remind the minister that without the artist, he has no portfolio. He has no employment. He is basically under our mercy, right?
Exactly,
and the third part is that what's currently happening in SA also reflects badly across Africa, because so many of people in Africa look forward to what is produced in SA. And as you may understand, before even democracy was heard in SA, it was the artists who used protest symbols. It was the artists who ensured that all of the activities that made the country what it is today, they were in the forefront advocating. Thando Mahlangu is in the building. Thando Mahlangu is in the building. He's just joined us there in his cultural regalia. I hope he can hear us though. I see him taking a pose. He's calling his makeup artist to touch him up a bit. Mr. Mashego, it's quite sad and painful in the sense that art had to be fused with the Department of Sports. One that signals a crisis to say art is a non-starter in SA. Number two, we did not have to get to a state where the National Arts Council, which was given 300 million, cannot account for that money. And the people who are supposedly in charge for maladministration are still enjoying the perks of corruption, whereas the artists who deserve funds from the presidential stimulus package have not had a cent to enjoy. Mr. Mahlangu, can you hear us? Sorry for the disturbance. Mr. Mahlangu, can you hear us? Look at Thando taking a pause instead of listening to us. There we go.
He wants the banner.
Yeah.
He wants the background banner to appear.
Thando, can you hear us? He can't as yet. Yeah, there we go. I think he switched on audio. Yeah, so these are the beauties of live radio. You never know what to expect and you never know what's going to happen. But the important part is we create these platforms so that SA can understand what's currently happening, and SA also can participate in all the things that we see, so that the community as well as people who run government, which is the citizenry, can know how to hold them to account and also make sure that every cent that is used is for public benefit. Mr. Mahlangu, his mic is still switched off. I hope he can switch it on.
It's on now.
There we go, it's on. Mr. Mahlangu, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Eventually,
can you hear me?
The God of Ndebele has
yeah, finally, yo.
Sorry for the struggles.
Yeah, I was crazy, but
not to worry.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So I've just asked Mr. Mashego to make a quick intro. I'll ask you to do the same as well, please.
Yes. Okay, no problem. My name is Thando Mahlangu. I'm based in Ndebele. I'm a Ndebele art painter and a Ndebele activist. I'm a cultural activist. I'm also an author, and I advocate for to be on television, specifically to be on SABC TV.
SABC, which is the national broadcaster. The last time I ever saw anything to do with
Yeah.
Ndebele was a drama series whose name I can't recall. The only word I recall was Umtana Ketu Ustis.
You see, exactly. That's why we need our languages on our public platform, because now SABC is the only public broadcaster in South Africa. So that's why we need to have local content. We need to have programs that have our languages, you know. That's why we are still fighting, Guti. We need to have local.
Definitely. Whilst we're still on the language issue, SA officially recognizes around 11. We may add sign language as the 12th, but I'm of the opinion that there are some languages that are left behind. Please share with us which languages are still left behind.
Well, I think some of the languages left behind are for now with the communities. If you look at the makeup, let's say of Limpopo, for example, you've got people who call themselves Batokwa, you've got Balobedu, you have got Bahana Anwa, you've got Bapalabora, you've got lots and lots of different people. And those people, by virtue of them having an identity, they have a language. And their languages were, in a way, marginalized for some time. And even if you go to other provinces, you go to KZN, you find that there are people who speak Sesotho in KZN next to the border with Lesotho, but they are part of KZN. But when you look at KZN language as a province, you find that they don't actually look at Sesotho as one of those languages in the province. So there are lots of languages. I think there are more that languages that are here are equal to the community that exist in South Africa. It's just that the so-called 11 languages are actually the nine Bantustans that we have, the homelands that we have. They just took the languages of those homelands and then they merged them together and then they made like 9 languages, and then they put English and Afrikaans, and then they said we've got 11 languages. So the language policy as it stands now does not take into cognizance the fact that before there were homelands and their monolingual policies, there were actually communities with their multilingual practitioners, with their multilingual practices.
Whilst we're there, Thando, you were recently in the media and European standards were imposed onto you. You were said to be indecent in your traditional regalia. How did you receive that experience as and when?
It was an extremely bad experience, mainly because I'm in Africa, number one. I'm a South African. I'm in Ndebele, which is part of the 11 official languages. But Nama languages is we South Africa, they are more than that, you know. So now the whole experience didn't sit well with me because it was extremely bad one. Because I felt that the guy was attacking me personally, was attacking my language, was attacking my culture, and was attacking my nation. Because now, Abu Bamkulu Betu, they were wearing exactly what I was wearing, what I always wear, you know. So now the problem is, if you are an African and you're a Tswana speaking person and you are telling me wearing exactly like Amatswana are wearing, and you are saying, I'm in public place, I need to respect the public places, I have to wear the way I'm wearing, then now that one is a whole nation as a whole. So now the whole thing didn't sit down with me well. I was frustrated for the past 3 days, you know, but by speaking to cultural experts and other activities and other activists, so it becomes easier, it becomes better, you know. So because now every time I was speaking about it, I used to cry again, because this was a second incident publicly so that was happening to me, because the first one happened with the How Train 2018, yes. So now this one 3 years later, it's happening again, and to me again. So it was painful, trust me.
In Africa particularly,
so yeah.
We currently all practitioners in the cultural and creative industry sector, right? Which is entrusted, among others, creating a national identity for South Africa. promoting social cohesion, building a just society. How is the Department of Arts and Culture failing us as Africans?
I think, as Thando mentioned, you can tell the treatment that they received in South Africa from on a country that is led by Black people. The failure is that government loves to talk about social cohesion without really looking at what is cohesion, because the things that cohere are things that are equal. You need to create an equality first. Thando spoke about the need for Ndebele to have a show on public television, a soap, for example, or even a series. Now, when you go to Ndebele or to Mapulana and say, we all need to have social cohesion, the question is cohere with who? Because only equals can be able to cohere. So you cannot create an uneven platform and then say everyone else must come in and actually act normal. So government priorities, the problem is the people who are drafting all this social cohesion, all these national unity laws, there are people who are already sitting at the table, at the head of the table, who are having the juiciest stakes, and then they're saying to Ndebele and Mapulana to say, no, but behave as if everything is normal. So I think what needs to happen is South Africa as a country, or the politicians in the country, they need to allow people to define themselves, because self-determination is a right. You've got the right to say, I am Ndebele, Mapulana, and somebody must not say to you, because now that means
you see,
that's what they say.
Joining Thando, I think something is bending you there.
Yes. You know, the challenge is here. Let's start with South African national anthem. How many languages are there? You know, if we can address that particular fact, you see exactly. We've got 4 languages, and then they want me in Ndebele to sing a South African anthem proudly so, while my language is not there, which means I'm not represented. You know, so now that's a problem. And the Department of Arts and Culture it's useless to me, mainly because so far it hasn't done anything to protect the language, the culture, and the art sector. Because let's look at this. The art department, it's bringing a lot of money in South Africa. It's contributing in the GDP, you know, but the language is not recognized. That's why they are saying arts and culture. What happened to the language? Because language and culture, they go together. You can't separate the two. They need to change this to say arts, language and culture department, because language and culture, they go together, trust me. But the Minister of Arts and Culture so far is not doing anything, trust me. He's not doing anything to protect our language, to protect our culture, to promote our language and our culture. For example, I've never heard President Ramaphosa speaking isiVenda. Why is that? You know, we have a huge challenge in South Africa, because after almost 27 years, we have a freedom, but we are not free. Our languages are not free. Our culture is not free. You can look at most of communication in government. Ipumange English. Why should we prioritize English that much? Why? It's a language. What is special about English? You know, for example, if you can get Black people in a room, 6 different nations, instead of speaking an African language or a South African language in there, they'll say, no, let's speak English so that we can hear each other. Why is that? You see the mentality.
So true.
No, he is right. And another point, if you remember some years back, Shaka sang the national anthem in Kwaito, and there was outcry to say they were desecrating the national anthem. So in a way, the 4 languages that are designated for the national anthem, if Thando started singing it in Ndebele, somebody's like to say, no, you're desecrating the national anthem, because a national anthem is a national identity. You cannot edit it, you know, you take it as it is. So there needs to be that consensus to say, let every person sing the national anthem in their own language. And if you're a public official like the minister, you must be able to sing in that language, because you can't be a Black minister. You're able to sing the stem, but you cannot sing a song in an African language.
Definitely. No, that's a valid point.
Yes.
You know, the sad part is you've got institutions of socialization. I'll count media, I'll count the schools, I'll also count the political fraternity. Politics I'm including because the policy formulation comes from that fraternity, right? But in schools, this is where the message, this is where identity, this is where social discourse is ingrained. if, for example, not so long ago, we were rushing to learn Mandarin, and I was always asking, whilst I'm based in KZN, how come KZN alone doesn't advocate for Ngoni speaking languages? Who cares whether Mandarin is an economic language, but what about our own languages?
That just to interject that also makes you understand the cultural deficit that our politicians are suffering. First of all, you are saying you are bringing Mandarin to South African schools because South Africa is trading with China. And you are saying you are going to introduce Swahili. The minister once spoke about Swahili. We're going to introduce Swahili in schools because South Africa must look northward to Africa. Now, it shows you one thing. What is Swahili? Swahili is a language fine spoken in Tanzania, in Kenya, in other African countries. But how did Swahili come about?
Yes.
Languages had to die for Swahili to be born. Now, if you bring Swahili in South Africa, you can tell how you're going to kill all the 11 languages by introducing one language that killed others for it to be born. Because Swahili was not an authentic language. It's a language that borrows a lot. And there are indigenous languages that were killed for Swahili to exist. So if you bring Mandarin in South Africa, you are just going to kill the languages because South Africans, even now, they still can't speak languages of other African people. But when you bring a Chinese language, you are just making it more and more difficult for us to even have the cohesion that government advocates for a lot, especially during those social days.
Definitely. And now UNESCO under United Nations has declared 2022 until 2023 as the decade of indigenous languages. Are we likely to see any change in South Africa with this declaration from UNESCO? Thando?
Well, I think...
Okay. Yeah, from me, no, we are not likely to see any changes, mainly because if you look at how our economy built, our economy in South Africa, it's built around English and Afrikaans, which is a problem because now, Nakbeta 1994, the current government failed us and a lot of people, mainly because when they build the economy, they neglected all the South African languages and cultural aspect of everything, but they build the economy around English and Afrikaans, So now all those things, they are very challenging because now you'll hear other people saying, no, let's speak English because English is universal. What about our languages? Why can't we make Ndebele universal? Why can't we make Zulu universal? Why can't we make Xhosa universal? Even now in South Africa, we only have 4 languages that are taken serious, which is a problem. That's why I'll always go back to the fact that SAPC is saying it will treat all the languages equal. But if you are looking at the setup and the way things are happening, they are treating only 4 languages equal, including Afrikaans, which is a problem for me, knowing it is the South Africa, So now, if we need to change this, we need to start introducing cultural days on Fridays at schools, so that children can familiarize themselves with their education, with their cultural stuff, And then again, we need to start having these all politicians addressing us with their own mother tongue language. Until then, we're still gonna have a problem because either way, the president will be sitting in front of TV speaking English. Thereafter, they will release a statement again in English. So what's the point?
Yeah, and also to add to that, for the UNESCO declaration to really work, I think it needs to be cast technically in stone, like the Millennium Development Goals, whereby you've got a peer review mechanism, whereby if you sign on to say we agree with the declaration, so there must be an annual appraisal system where they'll come to South Africa, go to Northwest and say, okay, how many IDPs, integrated development plans, have been produced in the language of the people, and also go to the airports. Yes. You go to Polokwane Airport. The sign you see, they say Polokwane Airport, Polokwane left half, and you ask yourself, why don't they write Wema Fofane Bia Polokwane? Because if you go to France, you'll find that they write in French. You go to Arab countries, they write in Arab.
Exactly.
Arabic. But when you go to KZN, you can't. The King Shaka, they should write whatever Indies or something. Yeah, King Shaka. Instead of writing King Shaka Airport, why do you go in a province of Zulu-speaking people, but you still find the language that's spoken by a fraction, not even 5% of the population? So I think the declaration of UNESCO will only suffice if it is cast in stone, like the Millennium Development Goals, whereby we can do a peer review. People can come to Mpumalanga and say, which communities live here? Are their languages official? What is the signage? Is the building, the municipal building written in Ndebele, if it's a Steph Tshwete, or if you are anywhere where you have got a lot of Amandebele, instead of us municipality, airport, they have everything else. Even where you don't actually have Africa, you come to Mpumalanga Airport, they will say Kruger Mpumalanga International Airport. There is no Swati, there's no Spulana, there's no Sepedi, there is no Isindebele.
Exactly.
So you wonder whether you are in England or actually you are in Mpumalanga. So I think that's the only way that's going to work.
You're in Europe, that's in Africa. I once rode a cow train from Sheffield to Stanton, and this European gentleman said the only time he ever feels like he's home is when he is in South Africa. It feels as though he's moved from one room in his house to the next. That's how accommodating South Africa is. But the question may be flipped. And if you're now saying Isindebele is absent from visual media, and you are now saying Sipulana is not known, what are Amandebele doing to make sure that they remain relevant, they are visible, and they assert their personhood without any shame or fear?
You see, to Amandebele, we've been fighting for everything that is ours. For example, currently we have Abandwana that are sleeping at Union Building because of the Moloto Rail corridor that we were promised 27 years ago. You know, currently we have Dr. Thando Mahlangu, who is not recognized in South Africa, but she's recognized outside of the country. But if you can walk into the Department of Arts and Culture Minister's office, it's painted, it's in Ndebele. So you see, these people, they are doing all of this in purpose because they know it. Currently, we are fighting in Telmas with Ndumbeni so that children from Kwahlanga at Telmas, they can learn isiNdebele at their schools because it's their mother language, but they are learning isiZulu that side. Why is that? Even Kwandebele here, other children, they are not learning isiNdebele. They are learning isiZulu, and this place is called Kwandebele, Kuhlala Mandebele. Their mother tongue is language, language is Ndebele. So now, it's still a problem mainly because now the system that we have in South Africa, it's killing our languages. Even if you can check the state South Africa currently, they'll be telling you, Guti Amandebele, there are 1.2 million in South Africa. And yet, Kwandebele, Amandebele only, there are more than 5 million. So where do they get their stats? Because they never came to me and asked me which language am I speaking. You know, all these things, they are being fed.
So in the case of us, when we went to school, we were taught in Sepedi, Northern Sotho, what they call Northern Sotho.
Yes.
And they were saying there's nothing called Sipulana.
Wow.
And we were failing a lot because Sepedi and Sipulana are so different. You know, in Sipulana, when they climb a tree, they say, Banamela Sehlari, Banamela Mohlari. Yes. And in Sipulana, we say, Kikalama Sehlari. When they say they're running, they say, Kiakitima. Kaspulana say, Kiataboha. So it's apples and oranges. So what we've been doing, we decided that, look, if we are going to lobby them and advocate, they're just going to make it difficult for us because the attempt was done earlier in 2002 to do through the parliamentary petitioning system. Because when that came, it was referred back to the language, the PENSAP in Limpopo for them to adjudicate on whether Spulana is a language. But then the people there are those who are benefiting from the budget. They didn't approve. They said, let's change from Sepedi to Northern Sotho. So right now, what we've been doing, we've been making the art space, we've been producing lots and lots of music in the language, and we have caught the attention of the CRL Rights Commission, the one with a very long name, Cultural. So we met them last week. We met them last week, and they said to us, and we met them last week, and they said to us, look, the one thing you can do is come up with a dictionary that is Sepedi, Sipulana, where you've got all the Sepedi name words and the Sipulana words, so that people can actually understand the difference, to say these are different languages. Because as things stand now, while we speak a different language at home and as we learn a different language, the Pedis, especially about Pedi, they insist that Mapulana ke Pedi for a reason only known to them, for hegemonic reasons. So they said we must come up with a dictionary, and we have started. Like, I put it on Facebook, and I've been receiving lots and lots of it that shows Burobe in Sepedi, Wushwa in Sipulan, to say, let us gather this thing, and then that's going to serve as evidence to whatever committee in Parliament to pass up, especially to say, but how do you say Leroa and I say Mosemu, but to say mine is a dialect of the other. You know, the same thing Thando is saying, that they say Ndebele is technically a dialect of isiZulu. That's why they have to learn in isiZulu, because Umzilikazi was once a Zulu person, of which it's nonsense, to put it bluntly, because people have the right.
True. Yes.
Thando, had it not been for Boulder Small, who today would know who Thando Mahlangu is? Had it not been for the media hype,
you see,
Dr. Esther Mahlangu, who would know today who Ndebele are?
Yeah.
Exactly. No one. I've been doing what I'm doing for more than 6 to 7 years now. But currently, it's only now that the whole thing caught fire. Why is that? I've sent a complaint to CRL Commission. I've sent a complaint to the Department of Office of the Public Protector, complaining about the SAPC. We've marched to the SAPC headquarters in Auckland Park, delivering a memorandum that says we need Ndebele on TV, mainly because now our language is going out. But now if it's on television, even young Ndebeles, Abasakulabo, they will be proud about their language. They will see what we do, how we eat, what are we wearing, and they will see our houses and they will see our places. And then we also marched to the Department of Communications while the minister was Minister Nomvula Mponyane for the communications. And then we've also last year on the 23rd of October, we've delivered a memorandum at Union Building and at the President's office saying we need Ndebele on TV, mainly because our language is not taken serious. So you see now, media was not there to cover Dr. Esther Mahlangu. No one knew what Ndebele who are Ndebele. They will only know our blankets, our clothes. Trust me, they know our colors, but they don't know the face of Ndebele. They don't know the language. That's the sad part. You see, only if I can only thank Nobile Masu who managed to took that video. I don't know how she got it, but hey, she's done a great job, because currently we wouldn't be speaking about this. I've seen around media is talking about now language and culture, how important it is, which means those are the conversations we should have had 24 years ago or 23 years ago. As soon as we get our freedom, our government were supposed to advocate for our languages. You know, we need to make our languages to pay us more than English, but currently it's not happening in South Africa. It's a sad reality.
You know, I lived in 2011, I lived Gwamhlanga in Mpumalanga. And the only time I knew Ndebele existed was when they bought Fanta Orange and there was apricot jam at ShopRite.
and you know, the funny thing for me, my first experience of Ndebele was, I think Umam Mkhwebane, the singer.
Yes.
Back in the days, this woman who would wear colorful clothes, and then she sang and she played this kind of instrument.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's so sad, the point that Thando is raising, because you look at people, the middle class in South Africa, they were so excited about the collaboration between Gakwi Mashego and John Legend, the Belvedere.
I remember. Even BMW.
They were excited about the tastic rice. They were excited about the bread packaging, about the tea. But then you ask yourself, you are excited about these colors. When you're outside of the country, you say, no, this comes from our country. But when you come back to South Africa, you don't want to recognize the people who originated there. So I think the tragedy here too is our middle class are people who actually hate their own culture. They don't want to be themselves. They want to be someone else. And they only relate to South African iconography, like, you know, the background, the Thando, when they are overseas, because sometimes you find that their own iconography has not been able to reach that pinnacle. So bakhona ukuthi they can gain in fame by saying, oh, Esther Mahlangu comes from our country, Belvedere, collaboration. But that person will never even go to all those areas to visit or to actually see Umak Esther painting with a feather to know that this is how the art is being done. They don't even have this artifacts in their own houses, but they'll buy Belvedere because as a whiskey, it's actually boosting their own social standing to say they've got the money to can be able to buy this product.
Definitely.
Yes.
I also know of Silobedu. I can't speak it, but I understand a bit of it. The only thing I knew about Mapulana was them being infused into Sipedi, and everyone used to have a big halabalu whenever I used to visit Polokwane or Ellisras. People would faintly speak about them, but still, as Thando is rightfully stating, if visual media is not promoting these things, then it is left to just dwindle somewhere into obscurity until it's forgotten. Again, if we have departments such as the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, we've got COCTA even, we've got the Department of Basic Education that is not prioritizing language, cultural identity, and heritage. We are basically, as African, going to dissipate from our motherland, and Europe is going to continue have a colonial exploit as well as a franchise in Africa for as long as we can remain.
True, true. And also another worry is that as long as communities like Ndebele, Mapulana, Balobedu, Batokwa, as long as they don't get recognition, because it's like we are Shela and you are not getting love back.
Yes, yes.
We'll reach a stage whereby people now start to aspire to be inward looking. We tell them Ndebele, but no, we'd rather have our own place, where we can be self-governing, and then you start talking about secession, because if you cannot be recognized in an entity called South Africa, you might as well say, no, look, rather give Ndebele its own limited autonomy so we can practice our own culture within our own space and not be subjected to the rules of the country called South Africa that refuses to acknowledge, because it will be like a child rejecting the parent who refuses to feed them. And that's where we are headed, because we are not going to disappear because we're not being legislated about. We are going to start thinking inside and say, no, Mapulana must be given its own autonomy so that we are not subjected to the rules of the Republic, because the Republic does not want to have a child called Mapulana.
But sadly, though, as part of our concluding remarks, we're going to give Thando an opportunity as well as yourself, Gakwi. Look at what happened with Orania. Orania is a state within a state with their own national anthem, with their own currency, with their own geographical location. And South Africa, as a government, a sovereign state, cannot go to Orania and demand integration, right? But why is it that Thando had to be humiliated before we say Ndebele Meta? Why did Gakwi have to go to meet and advocate for the integration of Sipulana before we say people from Limpopo are diverse? They need to be equally respected as we respect people from KZN, the Northwest, the Free State, and everywhere else. Your concluding remarks, gentlemen?
Yeah, well, my concluding remarks will really be on that, because you mentioned a good point about Orania, because the establishment of Orania was Afrikaners saying they wanted a place where they can practice their culture. So that was the reason. So, which means people, when pushed to a certain limit, while I'm not endorsing Orania, but I understand the reasons why they wanted Orania. So people, when they are pushed to a position, they are going to start looking inward. And I can't rule that out. I can't rule Ndebele doing that at some stage. I can't rule Mapulana doing that at some stage, whereby we say, look, instead of you saying 11 languages and we are only going to be covered through a policy, rather you allow us a certain level of autonomy. And in this autonomy, we are going to have our own schools, our own languages, but we'll pay taxes to the national government, but the taxes are going to be plowed back to us, because we can't be funding other nations in South Africa that are busy subverting our efforts to actually become a nation. So we are reaching that stage. If that doesn't happen in 30 years of democracy, I start seeing us pulling back rather than looking outside, saying, let us look inward, and we'll have more Oranias now, which will now be called separate development, because they'll be development orientated.
Definitely. Thando, your concluding remarks?
True. I'd love to put this challenge to South Africa and to this current sitting government. Can we have cultural every Friday? Can everyone wear their cultural clothing every Friday? Can we have SAPC having local content with our own languages? Can we have the presidency that will advocate for South African languages, not only in English language? You know, can we have a sitting minister of arts and culture changing the department to arts, language, and culture? Can we have ambassadors of all 11 official languages be part of arts and culture? Can we change South African national anthem and include all the languages? My name is Thando Mahlangu. You can check me on Twitter at Thando Mahlangu _ on Facebook, Thando Mahlangu. Vuka Ndebele.
I knew Thando Mahlangu is gonna steal the moment and do a shout out right here. Gentlemen, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for taking time to be with us here.
Yes.
Discussion sessions at Capital Radio. It is indeed a privilege to be in your company.
Thank you for the invitation.
I'm gonna play you
My
out.
king, thank you very much for the platform. It's much needed.
It's only a pleasure, my dear friend. I'm gonna play you out with three beautiful songs. The first is Perita Chigizinto. The second is Amos Ubukona. And the third one is Common the Light, because that's what you brought to us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a great show.
Likewise. Take care.
You too.
Hey. That's